Hi, Bill.
Morning, David.
How are you this morning?
I'm well. How are things for you?
Not bad, except I've lost the camera on my computer and I
Darn.
haven't been able to reinstall it or whatever. But
Well, these these
well,
wonders are uh, sometimes elusive.
yeah,
Uh,
yes, they are.
Speaking of which, when I got up this morning, we had no internet in the house.
Oh, that was exciting.
We couldn't even look up what was wrong.
uh,
And
And it came back, but I have no idea what that was about. And I didn't have to fiddle with the router or anything. So
it just came back. Yeah.
it came back.
Oh, good.
we had none of these issues in the 70s.
No.
Oh.
Of course, we couldn't do this in the 70s.
No. Morning, Carol, and morning, Joanne.
Good morning.
Hello. Let's change my name.
What?
It's always interesting as to what pops up, which
Oh, yes.
organization was. I'm the Valentine Peace Trust or the Southeastern Connecticut Community Land Trust, yada yada. But anyway, we all
In
share
your front
this
porch, right?
Zoom. What's that?
You're really in your front porch room, right?
I really am in my front porch room. That's right.
Yeah.
Yep. Yep. Yeah. I have new orchids that are blooming over here. Beautiful.
Oh,
Great,
It's spring.
great.
It's almost summer.
good. Good. Well, I haven't heard from Adam this morning, um, so I'm assuming he's tied up. um,
Pretty good assumption. Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah, poor Adam.
Yeah.
Okay. Good. So, how are things in your practice? Questions, problems, successes?
I'd missed, well, we all missed the last class, and then I missed the
Yeah.
one before, but I have spent time on the recording and reading. And I think I found I have a newfound appreciation for number 7.
Ah,
That's good because it had been mostly a really difficult challenge.
uh-huh.
So if I have the newfound appreciation, at least motivates me more to like, okay, I can really get this better. um, I feel like sometimes I do it and it clicks, and sometimes I'm like feeling too stiff. Trying to do the crane's neck and the movements and making sure it's coming from the waist and da 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 da.
Yeah.
But I feel like I am making progress
Well, that's good.
slowly but surely.
Good. And
Um, on number 7, I uh, just yesterday decided to let myself flop around instead of, being sort of mechanical, similar to what Joanne was just saying. I don't know, but it felt good, and I felt like I was maybe a little closer to whole body movement.
hmm,
By letting myself go a little bit and not,
Mm.
uh,
yeah,
uh,
I think you're absolutely right, Bill. There's kind of a tendency to hold on to that movement. And you have to find the fluidity in it as
Mhm, mhm.
well as the coordination and the correct movement. So yeah, it's not easy. Bill or Carol,
Yeah.
anything for you?
Well,
That's
I
it.
somewhat predictably forgot that we weren't having a lesson, so I came downstairs, turned on my computer, then remembered. But I went through, I pulled up a couple of the old videos where we were doing the whole thing and used the exact time a week ago to do that maybe 3 times. And that
Wow,
was very useful.
good.
And but yeah, and 7, I think doing that maybe a little more intently. I'm pretty good every day at least doing a half a practice, and more often than not a full 20, 10 versus 20.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and I think going through it and having everybody doing it, you know, is interesting. But for 7, there is because you're trying to keep your hips square and have that base, you know,
Yep.
solid there. It's sort of a contradiction to everything, all the other parts of the movement in a way.
Well,
But
it is in that.
but yeah, the fluidity, getting fluidity there, and having and maintaining that, still base. If I was thinking of it more as a point rather than the lower part of the spine, and that
Mm-hmm.
seemed to help to get more uh, flex flexibility
Yeah.
going through it. And I continue to work with the reverse breathing, and I think that I was thinking this morning, what are every point you make as we have journeyed through this has changed the doing somewhat.
Mm.
So like when we did the 5 points, that was a big
Mm.
change in the energy for me. And I think now I would have to put reverse breathing and incorporating that in at the top, even ahead of the 5 points, as being, most change in the energy
Mm-hmm.
and fluidity,
Good.
uh, focusing on that. But everything is important.
Yes, it is,
True,
and
true.
I understand what you're saying about maintaining the position of the pelvis because we place so much emphasis on keeping the 4 points together, and here we are actually taking them apart, separating the quad from the shoulder's nest, and so yeah, it's a change, um, but only in 7.
So I have another only in 7 question, or a question that came up for me in that last the class on 7 that I missed,
Mm,
which is that a number of times you say go until you can't go any further, or
mm,
go as far as you go, right? And we don't usually use that language because we usually reminded of the 70% rule. So I mean,
right.
obviously one can go too far and then you're off balance, then you feel a different stretch. But could you just say a little about that, where the 70% rule comes in and
Well,
go
I
as far
think
as you can?
I think you put your finger right on it. That you are endeavoring to find what is the maximum at this point. What is the maximum rotation that you can do fluidly um, and clearly without losing your balance or without
Mhm.
changing any of the principles you're working with.
Uh-huh.
Um, and it also helps you to begin to be aware of the opening and closing of the ribs in the movement.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
So it's a I understand what you're saying. Yes, an unusual terminology, but it doesn't mean to exceed
Right.
what would be your appropriate limit, which
Yep.
at this stage might be 80%, I might say,
Uh-huh.
by the way, because you're all advanced enough in this particular practice anyway, that I think that it's conceivable that it may have grown a bit. So, and that's okay. That's okay. Does that help you there?
Yes, it does. Thank you. Yep.
Yep. Anything for you, Carol?
Oh, I just kind of flip between doing it mechanically and doing it with fluidity. Just,
Yeah.
and sometimes within the same set, and more
Uh-huh.
often it's one set. You know, okay, today I'm rigid, and tomorrow I'm fluid.
Yep. Well, that's
Haven't looked for a pattern about what it is. It's probably just what's going on in my head.
well, could very well be,
Well, yeah.
and just that it's different every day.
Yeah.
It's not going to be the same. I certainly find that, and I Bruce has talked about it, and many other people as well. So it's just accepting where you are and doing the best you can for that day.
Yeah.
And not berating yourself. You're not a bad person because it's not wonderful on a given day. The fact that you are practicing at all is such a positive that you don't need to throw any negative into it. So, we're going to, I'm going to throw another curveball at you here. I'm getting
Keep it
very,
coming, David.
very
Keep-
good at this,
keep it
I think.
Yeah, well, we did have a week off, so.
Yeah. So we're
I
going to
was
take.
thinking we were done. Yeah.
Yeah. No, not
Um.
quite. We're working on it, Bill. We're getting to, in that direction.
Never ending. The next life, we'll pick it up in the next life.
Right. The thing about this practice, and any actually, is that there is obviously the opportunity for continual growth. And whether you work on something new or simply continue refining principles you know, that growth goes on as long as you practice. So we're going to look at the middle Dantian and opening the heart center, or at least getting you in the neighborhood, hopefully. Opening the heart center might be a little bit of a challenge, and how this connects to the energetic body of Taoism and the emotional energy body. So there are many ways of opening up the middle Dantian. I'm stuck together today. People in the West commonly go from the standpoint of one of the yoga chakras, or they go from the heart center, which I should mention is not located in your physical heart. It is actually located along the central channel just next to your physical heart. And it has two giant qualities that are simultaneously involved with it. And very often they get confused. From a higher level of looking at it in Asia, as a general proposition in Taoism, Buddhism, Hinduism, and many shamanic traditions, and even in the Christian tradition as it was practiced in the early centuries after Jesus Christ, the heart center was always associated with love and compassion, but it is also associated with emotional feeling. And this is where things can sometimes go a little bit far afield, because if the heart center of the middle dantian opens, it has the ability to subsume all your emotions so that you can have strong emotions but without becoming attached to them. Now, to a lot of people in the West, this is an incomprehensible idea. If you have emotions, you are attached. They cannot be comprehended. They are not comprehended that you can love somebody and not be attached to them. Or take the other one, which is a little bit of a harder sell, perhaps. I hate you, but I'm not attached to my hate. I hate what you do. I hate what you are. I hate how you look at me. Now, nowadays, if you look at the news, or if you go to New York City and the name Donald Trump comes up, they hate him. I don't think a lot of people hate him. As a human being, like you hate someone, but a lot of it is just hate. They hate the priorities. They hate the way he acts. They hate the way he looks. But if you're attached to it, you can't let it go. Now, in Taoism, there is a recognition that everything changes. Nothing is solid in the sense of that it will be here forever and ever. Now, there are a few things that are like that, but they have to do with the nature of consciousness. It's itself. But anything is not going to be lasting forever. So if you love somebody, unless somehow you can consciously regenerate that love, you will fall out of love with them. That's how it goes. But if you can regenerate it, you don't have to fall out of love with them. But you can't regenerate that love if you're attached to loving them. Because if you're attached to loving them, you're also on the flip side of it going to become attached to not loving them. And this is the nature of yin and yang. But if you're not really attached, you can eventually go to the Tai Chi space, where you can regenerate that love day by day. And it doesn't really matter what it is. You know, people love their dogs until they're about 6 or 7 years old and it bites one of the children. And then all of a sudden, they may not love that dog so much. But they could regenerate that love. They could actually forgive the dog for having bitten the child. And so love the dog again and realize the dog needs to be trained, and then it will be better. So you have this great difficulty in that the middle dantian is a very powerful source. It is the source in the body that generates emotions. And it is just like the lower Dantian, which is the place where physicality dominates. And the upper Dantian is the place where human ability to have awareness of time and space in all its multi-dimensions, where that comes from. But go back to the middle Dantian. A lot of research has been done looking at the heart, and it has shown that while we mostly think of the brain as having all this electrical activity, in the last Actually, what's happened is that the heart has been shown to have more electrical activity than the brain. And it turns out that the lower Dantian actually has more cells than that mimic brain cells than the brain does. And maybe that was the source of these Dantians in Taoism. I don't really know. But it's an easy way that human beings could naturally find this. The other thing about the lower Dantian in Taoism and in most other traditions is that it's considered to be the big thing if you ask a fundamental question: where does consciousness derive in your body? I know something, I see something, I'm aware of something. All of these aspects are consciousness. And in the West, in general, especially in the intellectual community, we think it's the brain. But in a lot of parts of Asia, they think the source of consciousness is in your heart center. And in some other places, they think it's your lower Dantian. I don't think that there is any way of ever actually resolving this. But what you can say is, in many traditions, they primarily focus on one of them and let that one lead the other two. Now, the basic method of taking the energies of your body and your central channel is to literally have the energy from one move into the other, the next one, and live there. Now, in Taoism, they do not of itself consider the heart center to be the center of consciousness. What they consider is that the heart center can awaken it. And the way it's done in Taoism is very simple. The energy of the body comes to the heart. The energy of the upper Dantian and the brain comes to the heart. And when they all three combine, that is the source of consciousness inside your body. So it's not as though it's a concrete thing. It is something that comes from a dynamic flow, and how all the rest of you connects to each other. So this is the middle Dantian, but it's also that the middle Dantian has always been used to cool what I would call emotions that have gone over the top, gone crazy or too much. When most people begin to grieve, they just watch. You can just watch their hand go to their heart, And when someone talks about how they feel about their baby, their hands involuntarily often go to their heart. And it is because that is where the emotional center is located, and it has an immense amount of electrical energy. When in poetry and other things, it's always talking about my heart, but nobody's talking about the physical heart. And in other cultures, they are doing the same thing. But it's also that at the center of the heart center, that the center of the heart center is a place where the whole central channel can just somehow be present simultaneously. Now, as well as for physical things, I think everybody would rather have smoother and more friendly emotions than unsmooth and ones that drive you crazy or up the wall. I think it's somewhat recognized that when emotions go too far, it's not really a good thing. So in movements number 5 and 6, we've been working on the central channel. You're bringing energy up the central channel in movement 5 and down the central channel in movement 6. There are so many methods in Taoism for doing this that it's ridiculous. They do have sound methods that will get you into it. But again, that is involving some of the methods that are tied into Taoist liturgies, which I'm not able to teach you. They are really based upon being able to produce the vibrations of the Chinese language, and even more than the vibrations, it is the frequency that underlies the vibrations. And most Westerners will not be able to learn to speak Chinese that well. Now, if we want to start getting into the heart center, one of the easier ways is to put your mind into your lower dantian. So I want you to, and you could either do this seated if you're having difficulty standing, or you could stand. But we're going to work with a fairly easy principle here. The first thing I'd like you to do is just take your hand and at about the level of your lower dantian, and have some sense of the extent of your etheric body. And then bring that energy, pull that energy in to your lower dantian, or push it in, and pull it out, and push it in, and pull it out. And just do that a few times. We've spent a great deal of time developing awareness of the lower dantian. This should be fairly easy to feel the lower dantian. And then I'm going to suggest that you take both hands, and you can either link the end of your fingers or not. You might try it both ways and see what works best for you. But bring that energy into the lower dantian and then pull it up to your middle dantian and then push it down to the lower. So you're going to pull it up the central channel and down the central channel. And you're you're really trying to develop a very concrete awareness of that movement. And continue to work with that, because it may take you some time to become really clear in that sensation. Really try to put your mind into your body and into that movement of the energy. You want to start feeling something that is non-physical in there. The physical part of the lower dantian will actually be a cavity in the body. But the energetic thing of the dantian will not be. So take the energy from the lower dantian and pull it up to the middle dantian, the heart center. And then push it down the central channel into the lower dantian. Try to have a sense that you are stabilizing this feeling, awareness of the energy. So there are two things that you're endeavoring to recognize here. The first one is, what is the middle dantian and what is the lower dantian? That's why you rotate and have a sense of stabilizing in each of them until you have a very concrete feeling of it. And the second thing is to make it come up. The biggest thing you're after by doing this is you can actually begin to feel your middle dantian. Now the next thing that I want you to do is to begin to think about the second method of reverse breathing, where you make the ball come up to your diaphragm and go from your diaphragm down your spine and come out at the lower dantian. as you begin that, really have your mind in the lower dantian. As you come up, bring the energy from your lower dantian to your heart center. And then get it out. Turn over your hands and make it go back down your central channel. Bring it up from the lower dantian to your heart center and back down to your lower dantian. You're not attempting to hold it at the lower dantian or hold it at the middle dantian. You just want to have that energy come up clearly to where you can recognize it. And again, then smoothly go back down to your lower dantian where you can recognize it. And then turn over and bring it in and move it between your lower dantian and your middle dantian, using, if you can, the second method of reverse breathing. Now, this reverse breathing can benefit your body. Go up your spine and down your spine. But with your mind has to be inside your body and take it up and down the central channel. Now, these two have a very funny relationship in terms of manifesting emotions in the human body. Human emotions are not felt and do not take anyone over until they start activating all the hormones and everything else. If your hormones don't activate and they stay very, very calm, you're not going to have explosive emotions. To get explosive emotions, the secretions of your internal organs and the secretions of your glands have to start outputting to a really great extent in order to get you into a yelling and depressed or unbridled greed or unbridled sense of unworthiness or unbridled sense of superiority. Whatever those emotions might be, they are requiring that the lower dantian be strong enough to make the secretions be strong. But when you get up to your heart, It's not just a question of the secretions. It's a question of the mind that is underlying your body's ability to produce things. It now has to deal with those emotions. And so they're linked. And in one sense, it's truly that you can't say what's chicken and what's egg. The two of them are really strongly fused together. And now to a high enough, and now to get to a high enough degree that you can start recognizing the conscious in your heart. You can't separate them. But before that point, it's not very realistic. Pulling that energy up and pushing it down. And pause and relax. So what did you feel? What questions do you have? Could you feel the middle dantian?
Joanne, you're muted.
Yeah. We all started at once. Um,
Sorry, I'm muted because all the garbage trucks are around us.
Oh no.
He'll hear the Wednesday morning noise here in the neighborhood. Yeah, I mean, I felt energy immediately. I think it took a little bit, a few tries anyway, to feel it in the middle dantian. It was more of kind of feeling it in that space between. But the more I continued to do it, once I worked on it, the more I did it, the more I was able to feel it. And I think the guided part of what you were saying really helps.
Yep.
Really helps a lot.
Good.
And yes, I think I felt it in the middle dantian, and I felt the journey of the energy from the lower to the middle more clearly than the other way around.
Hmm.
For what it's worth.
Sure.
And I will say that at least at the beginning, when we added reverse breathing, I think it just jiggled my concentration, and I was having trouble holding on to the energy movement at first. And then after we continued, I began to get it back again. So
Good.
For me, I think I could feel the energy flowing up and down into the lower dantian. Had the up and down feeling of the energy, I couldn't say that I have an identity of the upper dantian at this point. It, it moves up and down, but there's nothing nearly as palpable with the middle dantian.
Hmm. Which is why this there's considerable more beyond this point, but I think it's really important to spend some time practicing just this movement, because it is how you can begin to really feel and be aware clearly of the middle dantian, which is really important. We also sometimes refer to the middle dantian as the heart mind. I mean, so it's known as the heart mind, the heart center, the middle dantian. It has lots of names. But it is located on the central channel at roughly the level of the heart. So just to be clear about where you might feel it. Carol?
Well, I do not have a strong, clear sense of the dantian, even of the lower dantian. So it's hard. It's really very nebulous. Any of the feeling. I mean, when you use, a strong, clear sense. No, it's never been a strong, clear sense. So, it hasn't yet become a strong, clear sense. Sort of vaguely, there's something moving, but I can't lay claim to having it strong, clear anywhere.
So that don't agonize about that.
Yeah.
You're in the same group with Jay Dunbar, who clearly is quite highly developed. So it becomes a more subtle awareness for you. So it's a little more difficult, actually, I think, for people who have a less clear sense of the movement of the energy. But you can be aware. It's just going to be a lot more subtle for you. And that's not good, bad, or indifferent. I mean, it's
harder.
Yes, it's harder, yes, but it's not in any way talking about what kind of a person you are, or what sort of energy you have, other than that it flows very quietly. So it's I encourage you not to not do this because it's not very strong, but rather to simply try to be very, very present with it, and try to be aware of what you do feel. Because I'm sure you can be aware of these dantians. So, as I said, there is considerably more that we're approaching now. So clearly, we're not. I don't think we can call you beginners anymore, other than beginning more advanced practices. So I do encourage you to really spend some time with this this week, and just develop as much as you can the awareness of those two dantians and moving the energy between them. And the using reverse breathing is very helpful in doing that. So
Could you define what you meant by the second reverse breathing?
Mm.
yeah, I talked about that when I first introduced reverse breathing, but so the first one we talked about the diaphragm and the lower dantian drawing in and pushing back towards the spine, and then expanding out and drawing the energy back from the spine. That movement continues in the second one, but now we're thinking that the energy is going from the lower dantian, and when you draw it in, it goes up the spine and comes forward into the middle dantian. And then when you go down, it goes back. So rather than just squeeze and pump, this is literally finding how you're moving the energy from the lower dantian, as the image that's kind of used is a ball of energy flowing into the spine and up into the lower dantian, and then back into the spine and down and into the lower dantian. Not
The spine and the spine and the central channel are not quite the same thing, right?
nope.
Right.
So you're talking about the energy going through the spine between the two dantians.
And it's also traveling up and down the central channel at the same time, of course. Yes, the central channel is in front of the spine, because the central channel is in the middle of your body cavity, and obviously your spine is not.
Mhm.
So, yeah, I can understand your sense of confusion. Not easy. You can simply stay with the first method if endeavoring to work on the second method is counterproductive for you. It just is. It is a more intense way of moving the energy. But the first one also will certainly assist in moving from one to the other. Other questions?
David, I have a basic question. We
Mhm.
involves where we actually started today, and that's with the etheric body. And I've always been at a loss to detect where my etheric body is, with the possible exception of below my feet, which I have a pretty good sense of rooting in the ground under my feet. But otherwise, around my body, I go in and out. I try to concentrate on it, and I don't even. I have no idea what I'm looking for.
um,
So, maybe a 15-second quick answer to that. Yeah.
well, I could give you an answer, but I don't know that I could give you the awareness.
15 seconds.
Yeah.
You have to feel that.
Yeah. Yeah.
The thing about the etheric body is that it varies from day to day. Well, it may vary from minute to minute. It may only be a very few inches outside of the physical body, or it may be more common if you're in good health, would be 2 or 3 feet. There are people who literally can extend their etheric body to 100 feet or more. The Dalai Lama is capable of doing that. I experienced that with him. So the problem is that it's going in every direction, front, back, sides, down and up. And it's part of what you're trying to learn to feel in movement 4. When you come down the side channels and go out to the extent of how much you feel your etheric body and then go up. And so with your awareness of the lower and middle Dantian, I think you're also capable of feeling your etheric body. It's just being aware of that, of the extent of that. The whole 8 energy body system in Taoism is I think a little foreign, more than a little. It's quite foreign to us initially. But that etheric body also extends inside you, and part of the reason why your movements outside your body are effective in moving the energy is that it reaches into your body through your etheric body.
Okay.
So you have the physical body, you have the etheric body going out beyond that, but it also goes into the physical body. Just as the third body, the emotional body, goes further into the physical body and further out. We will be talking about this in future days. But each of the energy bodies functions in that way until you reach the body of the Tao, which is the last one. So it's the link to the etheric body is not just something that's outside of you. It's something that when you bring the arms down in 4 and spread to the side, you're taking that energy in the etheric body and feeling where it extends to.
Okay. Thank you.
I don't know that I can give you any more
No,
15
well-
seconds than that.
Oh, I thank you.
I understand, that it's not easy for some of us to feel. Some of us are lucky and have a much stronger sense of the energy of different planes than others. That's just the way we're made. So it's not easy, but it's something that, as your awareness and your sensitivity to the energy grows, that one in particular, there is, at least I think for me, there was sort of a day sometime when I was practicing when I said, oh my God, there it is. And I hadn't really seen it or felt it before that. But once you feel it, then it's pretty easy to be aware of it. Or easier. I won't
I
say
think,
easy.
yeah, I don't claim to have a super clear awareness of it, but when we started talking about the 5 points and radiating out from,
Mm-hmm.
top of the head, hands and feet,
Yep.
both as we went, you know, into the more yin and out to the yang side, always radiating out. That was gave me an awareness of etheric body that was a little
Mm.
was beyond and more specific than what I'd experienced before.
Oh, good. Good. Nice. So, play with this week. We'll see where you get to in the course of the week. Um, you could do this almost anywhere. You could do it
Yeah.
sitting
Yeah.
down. Um, you won't get too many strange stares. You gotta
Whether you're
let
like
go.
in the food line at the supermarket,
Yeah, absolutely.
When
Okay.
I worked in tall buildings, I would do it in elevators a lot,
Ah,
Oh,
various and that was always terrific. I really need an elevator, I don't have an elevator anymore.
oh well. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
thank you, David.
Thank you. See you all next week. Have a good week.
Yep. I'll be right back for the next class.
Okay. Hmm. How are things in your world, Carol?
Oh, trundling along. I had my float experience yesterday,
Oh, yeah?
which I had expected to be really lovely, but they had this music, the woo woo kind of music going on,
Ah,
and I couldn't ignore it.
hmm.
I couldn't, and I disliked it, and I couldn't get away from it.
Oh,
And
that's awful.
apparently, it was something I could have done to turn it off, but I didn't know.
Yeah. Yeah, I was going to ask you, can't that be turned off?
Yes, I mean, it can be certainly turned off from the beginning, but I did this thing once or two or three times 5 years ago,
Yeah.
and I was slightly different then.
Yeah. Aren't we all?
So it was I was thinking, well, I'll use this time to meditate, and I couldn't dissolve the reaction to this
Hmm.
sound, which was overwhelming my senses,
Oh, God.
because all the other senses were just floated away nowhere, which was very pleasant, but
Well, it didn't really give you what you had hoped
it,
for.
it did not give me what I had hoped for.
Yeah.
So that was quite disappointing.
Yeah, that's too bad.
It was Joanne, it was a float tank experience, float therapy, where you're floating in about 11 inches of water that's so salty that you just float, and it's body temperature. But they had this music
Oh,
that was new age, that kind of fake music.
yeah, almost feels like you're wait, now we are back to Bill's elevator,
Yes, yes, yes. Well, at least elevator music kind of had a tune.
That's true, because it's usually based on something you kind of know.
It's-
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
it's a lousy theme and variation, but it's a
Right.
theme and variation. This was just the variation of no theme
All over the place.
all over the place and not any places I wanted to be. So
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. And it's hard to block that out.
yeah, and especially
I mean, yeah, I agree.
everything else was, it was lovely. Nothing hurt. My guts didn't feel like they were too big for my inside, for my body. It was lovely.
And how long did this go on?
This was an hour. I should have only done
Oh,
an hour. Yeah, by the end I was.
yeah, right. Like I want to throw it away. Right. Like if if you've got the radio on and something like that comes on and you don't like it, you just shut it off.
Right.
You have the power to do that.
And I might have had the power, but I didn't know how to do it. They didn't tell me that. So
No.
Right. Part of the orientation.
yes, it's supposed to be rejuvenation and it wasn't.
Sorry.
Oh,
Ended up with feeling a little bit maybe seasick and had a headache afterwards. So
oh,
Where did you do this, Carol? Where was this?
it's in Flanders. It's in the same mall as Tri-Town Foods. Same
Oh
little-
yeah.
Oh,
Uh-huh.
yeah.
Uh-huh.
can you take your own music?
Yes. Yes, you can. You can take
In
your
your
own
own
music
head, yeah.
and you can have it silent.
Hmm.
Ah,
And John bought me a certain number of them for Christmas.
Oh,
So I can either take it as this or I can get a massage. I think next time I'll get a massage.
so-
And I will do it
Something-
in half-hour increments and with no music,
yeah.
Beethoven or something that I really
something you
can just
enjoy.
listen to.
Yeah.
That could be lovely, actually.
Yeah.
A Beethoven symphony or piano sonatas.
There's a lot of good real music out there.
Yes. There's a lot of things that really are lovely to listen to.
Yeah.
And somebody else may find this lovely to listen to.
Oh, apparently a lot of people do.
A lot of
guess.
people do. But I'm not one of them.
Hmm. That was always an issue in when I was in massage school.
Yeah.
Was what music, because there was a lot of that used, but there's also a lot of really lovely music available.
Mhm.
And after a while, you learn to ask for what you wanted. So, where are we with form questions?
I have to admit, I have not practiced the form in 3 weeks. So I
Whoops.
realized that this morning. I was like, oh my God. I mean, I've just been so busy, and then also wanting to catch up on that class I missed. And so really trying to, and then that kind of became an interesting, practice to focus on. So yeah, I need to, the next few weeks are still crazy. Then the summer will open up a bit, but oof. Everything needs to be done in May and June. It's like September, October. Oh my God, people will go away. We need to do it all now.
Oh.
I know. But that's, yeah. So lots of, and I've been meeting regularly with someone who's in Israel and that. So we have to meet at 8 o'clock in the morning, my time. So it's a little heavy. So anyway.
It could be worse. It could be 5 o'clock in the morning your time.
Well, that's true. I have done 6 a.m. meetings, but that's a little much.
Yeah.
Yeah, not a regular thing that I like to have to do. I drove school bus for 7 years and I had to get up and out, by a little after 6, so
Yep.
yeah, not my choice of having to be up, but I don't mind being up at those times, but having to function well. Different.
Yeah.
Anyway, so
That's
yeah, I
all.
need to go back to Yes, I need to go back to the form. So I'm afraid I don't have any questions. I don't think anything was really hanging from our last class that I had questions about.
Okay.
Need to get back in the saddle, so to speak, as we say.
Um, you don't really need to, at this stage, certainly bring the practice I've introduced today in the other class into your form. We do want to eventually move the energy through the central and side channels, certainly in the form, but it's not. I don't think you need to try to focus on moving from the lower dantian to the middle dantian in this practice. So don't get hung up in that.
So I
Anything?
suppose we could use this form of reverse breathing, maybe.
Yep. Um, really the first form is if you can keep that flowing through the form, that's doing very well.
Okay.
And will actually
Keep
does
basic reverse breathing through the
Yeah.
form. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, and it does really begin to increase the awareness of the energy flow, particularly if you if you have all the other pieces functioning. But the breathing, in the 16 Neigong listing, the 16 internal practices that one hopes to incorporate eventually into Qigong and Tai Chi, breathing is the first one. And we start out just with learning to do longevity breathing, but then you want to go to reverse breathing, but you're still breathing with the entire body, just as you are in longevity breathing. But it's a much stronger and more direct way to move the energy in the body. So I don't know. I don't have anything particular to add here.
I think I just had a comment about breathing, which is that I think, if I can remember way back, more at the beginning of both studying Tai Chi, but also just maybe at the beginning of each of the different practices we learned, kind of trying to integrate the breathing into it felt like, oh God, one more kind of overwhelming thing. And now it feels like so integral, right? It's like, of course, you have to really, not only pay attention to that, but that kind of makes it the whole. It's part of it, as opposed to one more layer I have to,
yeah,
figure out. I think is kind of what it felt like at the beginning, which is why, like in a practice just now, it felt so good to go, oh yeah, okay, yeah, because there's something we're basing it on.
Sure. I think also in the form in particular, to not be caught up into a sense of having to align every breath
right
with every movement the way we do in the Qigong. Because here actually Master Zhou's principle of breathing without breathing is really what we're endeavoring to find.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, trying to
not holding the breath, keeping the breath continuous, but not necessarily trying to specifically align it with each movement.
in grasping the sparrow's tail, we'd be panting.
Yes, we would. Absolutely. That's what I was. No, that would
Yeah.
be ridiculous, wouldn't it?
It is very different from 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 gods, right? From the kind of
Yes.
I'm not sure what the word is, but we all know what I'm trying to say. Yes,
Yep,
you're right, Carol. I
we
prevent blank.
do. We do.
So I suppose you if you slow the movement down to match the breathing, it might be an interesting exercise, but
Mm.
I'm not eager to try that.
No, because the irregularity of the extent of time
Mm.
that each posture takes, I mean, it's not consistent. So you'd be,
Yeah.
wait a minute, how do I get here? I
You have to speed some things up while slowing other things down.
either that or you're using 2.5 breaths for one and half a breath for the next. I
Right.
mean,
Yeah. Yeah.
that,
Crazy.
that would just really confuse you. It would confuse me.
Yes. Right. Yeah. Okay. So we'll throw that one idea away.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Maybe. Yes,
Okay.
but no, I will have what time this weekend?
Okay.
What time this week?
Well, um, see if things are coming up in your second paragraph there, and we'll
Yep.
see if we can address that a little more.
Focus on that.
Yeah, I've been enjoying focusing on the second paragraph.
Yeah, me too, because that had been the one I hadn't been doing very much. So yeah.
Good.
We did the first for a whole long time. We did the third for a whole long time. Never didn't focus so much on the second.
Uh-huh. It's time.
Time. Right.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Carol, I'm sorry I missed you on Saturday. I understand you're in the same room with me. We didn't see each other. At All
Oh,
Souls.
At All Souls.
Rick, I guess Rick said he saw you.
I saw Rick. I didn't see you.
Yeah, no, I don't think I ever got up after I got in there. So I hadn't even been planning on going, but I was in New London for Madeline's ball game, and Patrick was like, "Oh, let's go over." So I'm glad I did.
Yeah.
It was it was a heavy thing on Israel and Palestine, David. So it's like,
Oh,
it was a play. It was a one-woman play, but it was a one, it was just kind of a lot of her thoughts, a lot of what's happening. There's also like a PowerPoint with it, kind of thing, and then a discussion afterwards. So
Yeah, I didn't stay for the discussion afterwards.
yeah, the discussion was kind of all over the place, depending on who was in the room. One man got really upset, left. I mean, there were a couple of comments made that were just kind of like startling. Particularly one full of just very negative, like Palestinians are dirty people kind of a comment. I was like, oh my God. Like but then there were also really other kinds of, and I listened. I just decided I would like really try to take it in and figure out where people are at. So it was, I'm glad they did it, but I was there. It was very intense.
Sounds interesting.
Yeah. It was. Anyway, maybe we'll find some times to get together this summer, Carol. I'm really trying to make time.
Yes, that would be really nice.
That would be nice. That would be nice
to see you here at least.
I know. At least we get this.
Yeah.
Yes. Patrick said, "Oh, I hear you're in class with Carol again." So but I do. I need to calm the work down. So I'm telling everybody that. So both the people I need to not work with this much and the people I'd like to spend more time with. So practice, review, etc. So anyway, but now I have to go deal with the fact that 2 people called me while we were in class.
Okay. Well, good
right.
luck.
Thanks. Okay.
Hang
Bye-bye,
in there.
everybody.
Bye-bye. See you tomorrow, Carol. Are you?
I will see you tomorrow, probably on Zoom, and I don't know if I'll be on Zoom with Shelley or not.
Okay.
I'm going to go over there at around 2-ish for a little while. But I'm wondering if perhaps Thursday is her bath day,
Huh.
which would exhaust her.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
Last time I were there, they mentioned that it takes 3 people to get her into and out of the bath, a shower.
Hmm. Wow.
Yeah. So,
There's nothing to say about that.
no, there isn't.
Awful.
Except one of the bookmarks I use
Mm-hmm.
is the ticket stub from when we went on the cruise,
Oh,
which was last summer.
huh. Yep.
So it has moved so fast.
Oh, I know. It's just, it's stunning to me how fast it's moved. So,
Well, anyway, see you
any,
tomorrow.
see you tomorrow. Have a good rest of the day.
Thank you. And you.
Okay.
Bye bye.
Bye.